Hey everybody, welcome to the NerdNest podcast live. Thank you so much. For those of you who just happen to be walking by and are like, what the hell's going on over there? I'm Bill, and I run the YouTube channel, The NerdNest, where we do the podcast, NerdNest Podcast. And here we've got Rich. Rich,
hey,
tell people about your show.
So I have a YouTube channel, Fan the Deck, and it's all about Steam Deck content and making videos once or twice a week.
Carrie?
Hey, my name's Carrie. I go by The Fox on YouTube. I look at a bunch of typically PC gaming handhelds, and I go a little bit in depth on them.
My name is Bob. I'm from the Wolf Den. I don't usually do this podcast, but I'm crashing it today.
Heck yeah.
No, but thank you for letting me crash the podcast. I appreciate it. It's nice to have other people do the panel with you. So this is very nice. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Russ from Retro Game Core. So I run a retro gaming YouTube channel and I post every other day or so. So hi.
Woo! Yeah, Russ!
Yeah, man. I want to do it.
Yeah, man, I want to do it.
Hey, you know what? Before we go any further, can we just get everybody at the once? I'm going to count to 3, and I want to hear you guys say, yeah, man, I want to do it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, man. I want to do it.
All right, that needs to go on your show.
That's so awkward. Thank you.
So we are here at Too Many Games, and before we get to Too Many Handhelds, which is something that we want to talk about later on in the episode, I wanted to talk about what we found here at the show. And I'm going to start all the way over there with Carrie, because I know he found a lot of stuff. What is some of those cool things that you found here at Too Many Games?
So I was actually surprised that there were too many games at Too Many Games. But one of the games that I did pick up that I was looking for that I got, I don't know, just magically vanished in my life sometime as I was growing up. I did manage to pick it back up here, and that's Spider-Man for the OG Genesis, or the Mega Drive for you guys out there. Is a fantastic Spider-Man game. I also picked up Sonic 2 because I just don't have it. But the one game that I actually do like, now I have Chrono Trigger, the US version that I got back in the 90s. I got my original box still with it. But I did not have the Super Famicom version, so that is what I picked up. I picked up the Super Famicom version of Chrono Trigger, complete in box. It's going to go live next to its twin.
That's sexy.
Nice.
I like that. Yeah,
Nice.
That's good stuff.
What'd you find, Rich?
So I looked over, it was a lot of window shopping, so I didn't actually buy any games, but it was cool to see a lot of those retro games that I grew up with. What I did pick up were some custom Steam Deck buttons.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah, I went to, yeah. So I went to buy the Game Boy set, and it turns out those are just pre-orders, so I kind of embarrassed myself. And I'm like, yeah, can I pick those up? They're like, no, you can pre-order them. So I did get the pre-order in, but I also picked up the fancy black.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I already took my Steam Deck apart once,
You're not
and
doing
I'm
it again?
never, ever doing it again because it was a nightmare, but those buttons look really, really cool.
I'll say the button replacement is a lot easier than what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Russ, what did you find?
So I'm all about the NES. That's my favorite system. And so I picked up, 15 games so far. Mostly just the cartridges, but I did pick up, I got Star Wars in the box, which is awesome because the game sucks. But it's just cool to have Star Wars and NES together, And then TNC Surf. So that's, TNC, the company, is from Hawaii. And not only are they from Hawaii, but they're from Pearl City, Hawaii, which is where my wife is from. So it even says it on the box, Pearl City, Hawaii underneath. So I grabbed that box. Not too bad. It was like $55, which I thought was really reasonable. And so those were the two highlights for me, definitely.
So I didn't have as much time to walk around as I would have liked, but I stopped off at the One-Up keyboard booth, and they're next to the colored controllers, guys.
Yes.
So they gave me some colored, the little Steam Deck buttons too.
Yeah.
They're a lot nicer than the ones that they had. I think last year they had a prototype.
Yeah.
So this year they're a lot nicer feeling. You can go over there and you can probably try them out. So I'll try that. But also, they're sharing a booth with One-Up keyboards, and they have some really nice Raspberry Pi-based keyboards that are pretty cool. Last year, I got a bunch of broken Game Boys for really cheap. And I was hoping to do that again this year, so I'm going to try to hunt for that, but I imagine so many people are trying to get broken Game Boys. I need an SP that doesn't have the top. I don't care about the top at all. I just need the board and the bottom part, but that's going to be probably hard to get. So... wish me luck, everybody.
You just go up to people and you say, do you have anything that snapped off? That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I want that top, curb stomped.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yesterday I found Ms. Pac-Man for the Sega Genesis. This is my favorite Ms. Pac-Man game, the best of the Pac-Man games. And I always, like Carrie and I were talking about this yesterday, I love Sega Genesis boxes. I wish that this had taken off more instead of cardboard, because this lasts forever. So I got that. I also picked up RC Pro-Am, which you said you got RC Pro-Am as well. He got one in box. I just got the cartridge. This is one of my favorite racing games of all time. And then I found this, which I did not even know existed. This is Yar's Revenge. I've never seen it with a red cover. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And it was $3. So I was like, hell yes, I'm buying that. And then today I went over to, I think, is there only one booth that has Famicom games?
No, there's another one, but that guy has like the majority displayed out on the table.
There's a guy, he's like on the other side over by the RetroWare booth, and he has a bunch of Famicom games, and I found Dragon Quest IV, just because I love the art style, and it's new in box, or not new in box, but it's in box with the manual as well. So those are the things that I ended up picking up here, but I had somebody found me on the channel or on the floor, and they handed me this, which is a Funko Pop of me, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it says my name on it too. It's like, so Manu, thank you so much. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. All right, so we got the stuff that we picked up here at the show out of the way. Let's talk about, Russ, you added this to like the show notes, which you'll notice I don't have show notes out because that's what I do. So you added this to the show notes, this idea of too many handhelds. And there are a lot of people blame E.T. for the video game crash of 1983. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that you went into a store and there was all of these different video game systems that were kind of crappy. And E.T. was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And then Russ said, well, are there too many handhelds? Are we going to crash this because they're just coming out every 15 seconds? So, Russ, what's your thoughts on that, man?
So I had this thought come up just last week, really. So I was reviewing the latest Anbernic handheld of the million that they've released, and it's called the RG Cube. And as I was working on the review, they started teasing the next one. And I was like, how is this even possible? If you think about like back in the day, right? Game Boy came out, and then it was many years later that we saw like the Game Boy Color, right? I think it was like a 6-year, 8-year gap or something, right? And now we're seeing about 3.5 weeks between the random handhelds. And so we never get that special time to live with the handhelds anymore, where it becomes like a part of you, you know, the era of Game Boy Advance. And then, you know, a couple years later, the SP comes out, and it's amazing, right? These systems can all play the same game. So it's just a different way of playing Mario. But why is it that like we don't have the time to actually play these games? I understand how Chinese manufacturing works and how they're all using recycled parts and stuff, but it's really taken away from some of that magic. Like it's a little bit less magical than it was before. Another good example would be the RG350, an Anbernic device that came out in 2020. It was the first one that I ever worked on. I probably made 40 videos about that one handheld. Now I can barely make one video about a handheld before I have to move on to the next one. So we don't having that time to live with them. And so it's amazing because there's a handheld for everybody, but it's also just kind of crazy too. So
I think we have to make a pact here as YouTubers. If there's a handheld that comes out and we don't want to make a video about it, email them back and say, hey, this is too similar to the last one. Yeah. I'm not going to make a video on it. And then hopefully they will stop making so many. Because I'm in the same boat. I just want to make one video and be done with it. I don't want to make too many on this day, unless there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. But now I'm in the boat where I'm only going to talk about it if it's different enough and interesting enough. Like the RG Cube was at least cool looking.
Yeah.
It at least had something different about it. The SP at least was a clamshell, but Miyu's coming out with a clamshell. I'm sure everybody else under the sun's coming out with a clamshell. So yeah, there's too many. Also, people used to, I feel like the majority of people just want one. And they're going to use that one for a really long time.
100%.
I know a lot of people who watch us probably get all of them. But that's not a majority of people. I feel like the majority doesn't want to spend hundreds of dollars. They don't want to have an allotment of their funds just for, handhelds every year.
You kind of alluded to that in your recent video too, where it's like, I think you said something like a new person to buy this analog, right? But let's be realistic. It's really the same person
Yeah.
buying multiple shells and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I always, when I make a video, I try to think who's this for, and it's usually I try to think about the person who wants to get into this, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best case scenario for people looking at videos.
Yeah.
It's probably people who want to get into it for the first time.
Yeah.
But there's way too many options now.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit overwhelming for that person. So you want to give that person as much information as possible. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
And you guys are talking about retro handhelds, but it's starting to seep into like PC handhelds. I saw an article on Steam Deck HQ that was talking about handheld fatigue, and I certainly feel it as a reviewer, just as you guys are talking about. So I'm down with that pact of, this is too similar. Let's go back to the drawing board, get something new. But there's also the other side of it where it's Asus, it's MSI, they're all laptop makers already, right? So they're kind of going into this just the same way that they do with laptops. But I think the base is different, to your point, where we are people that sort of want to have all the new shiny things. And I think to an extent, not the laptop makers, but some of these manufacturers do sort of capitalize on that, where they're looking for like the whales to buy multiple of the same sort of product over and over again. So that is something I think to be aware of. And for me, find your one, and then you can enjoy other ones that may supplement that, but find your one handheld and stick to that for the most part.
The one thing that I find that is like outside of our purview is that I almost feel like Ambernick is in like an arms race with like Pal Kitty, and they're just going to like the nearby building, like, what size screen do you have that I haven't done before? Do you have a square 2.2 inch? Because I haven't done that yet. And they're just thinking about what the next guy is going to do, and they're just trying to like just an arms race just to produce something that they haven't done yet. And largely when you look at this, when you were to look at even early PC gaming handhelds like the GPD Win 1, what was fascinating was that Indiegogo, you could see what regions were buying them, and 75% of GPD Win 1 sales from Indiegogo were actually going to Japan. 75%. So there's like a large population from Japan that were buying it. But that was also when there wasn't that many PC gaming handhelds or a lot of handhelds to begin with. But the reality is that there isn't a large volume, to your credit. Like, the people that are buying it is basically the same people that are buying the next one. Yeah. The volume that they're selling at is only like 5 digits wide. So it's tough, and you can see that they're exhausting whatever they can out of whatever current model that they have, and they got to just kick out the next one because they need to juice whatever thousands they can out of the next one. And yeah, there is fatigue, and we're all just like, oh, another H700. How many Rockchip 3560? Just slap the top of that bad boy, and like, man, it's going to go into so many handhelds. It's absolutely ridiculous how many they've been doing. And then, yeah, you look at PC gaming handhelds, but I feel like PC gaming handhelds have the opposite problem because they're more expensive. And then you have Asus, Lenovo, and Valve basically suffocating the room. And now the Chinese boutique makers that were making those, when people look at them, they're like, oh, Jesus, $700, $800. I should just go with someone that I can get good customer service. And then it's like getting really narrowed down to those, even though there are more, Ioneo and GPD and 1X Player, they exist in the market. But since Asus has appeared on there, you can look at Ioneo's sales on Indiegogo, and they're just 3 digits now. Used to be at least, 2,000. Then it went down to 1,000, but now they're down to like
Good. Maybe they'll make less.
Good. Yeah. It's really interesting to see the market. And the one thing that I am glad about is you guys don't see it just yet, but the Ally X that's coming out. The one thing that I've been a big proponent of is larger batteries. And now both MSI, the new 8AI, has an 80 watt hour battery, and the Ally X has an 80 watt hour battery. I'm a big fan of that. I've never really cared for devices that are too heavy, but Asus did a really good job, and I feel like they've created a basement. They've created the floor of how much power they need in handheld. So they're kind of like one-upping each other. But I feel that this is better because now they're like, oh crap, I have to put an 80 watt hour device on this, but I can't make it heavy. So now that they're like, now we have to do work. We actually have to engineer something instead of just slapping things together. So insofar as the PC gaming handheld segment, there are a lot, but I feel like the narrowness of the ones that are actually being bought are going to be getting improved because they're actually only competing with a smaller subset of companies. For the retro handhelds, that's a whole other bag of noodles, and that is way out of control at this point, and it's just like the train has left the station.
It is out of control at this point. You're doing a good thing separating the retro ones from the ones that play modern games. And I agree that the retro ones are out of control. But if you go back to Bob's channel 2 years ago, you were complaining. You were like, oh my God, stop putting out new ones. This was 2 years ago that you were saying, stop putting out new systems. But in that time, I feel like they got way better than they used to be. 2 years ago, the things that you didn't like about
What, are we talking about PC handles or are we talking about
the retro
stuff? Okay.
Yeah. 2 years ago, the things that you didn't like, you really didn't like those things. But now you're just like, these are all really good devices.
Finally.
Yes,
It
finally.
really wasn't that hard. Like, they all were garbage for a long time. They all had bad emulation for like a really long time. And then they finally figured it out. And how come like normal people could do it as a side project and figure it out themselves, but these companies whose job it is to sell it good can't do it? I'm glad they're finally figuring something out.
I'm going to guess that Carrie is going to talk about people who are making decisions so that they can say, no, don't put a good D-pad in this one. We're going to save that D-pad for the next one. Am I
Yeah,
right, Carrie?
I think absolutely. At least Ambernick did that.
Yes.
Yeah, for a little bit.
I'm like I'm just I'm super biased in this. I am dome-based D-pad all the way. If there's a dome-based D-pad, I'm already voting in favor. I'm like, this is great. This is perfect. I'll test this, but I don't have to go very far. As far as that's concerned, that's all I really need to know. But Ambernick actually does a fairly decent job with D-pads and hardware design. But yeah, to your credit, Bob, what they've done with software is quite literally they've had the mindset that the community would solve it. There's like, get it out there.
That sucks for people who don't want to look up on GitHub. You know, like most people just want the thing to work when they get it. And I don't blame them for that.
That's why they go to Russ. They just go to
Yeah.
Russ and they just go to his guides, and that's where they always
Wait,
land.
hold on. Yeah, I don't want Ambernick to get good because then I won't have a channel. So let's temper this a little bit.
Did Russ just turn into one of those C-suite guys?
No, Anthony, you guys are doing good.
Don't make them any good.
Come over here.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is that, I talk about this a lot, but like the difference between a computer and a console, right? And so we talk about these PC handhelds. When you go to buy a laptop, you're ready to buy a laptop, so you go to the store, you see all the options you have available, you pick out a laptop, and then you'll get another one sometime later. But that's how the handheld manufacturers think as well, like Asus and Lenovo and stuff. They're going to make a new one every year, and when you're ready for your new handheld, you get a new one. But we don't think like that. We're like, we want a console. If there's going to be a Switch 2, if there's going to be an ROG Ally 2, we're going to have to get that. But they all play the same things. And so I'm seeing that also, like the ROG Ally and the Ally X. So I'm seeing about a fifth of the interest in the Ally X compared to the Ally last year, so everybody is getting a little bit less interested in them. And so it makes me wonder, like ET, right? Are people getting oversaturated? Are we no longer enthusiastic about these options? And so that was the main reason why I was thinking about this too.
Do you think that it's people are less interested in the Ally X because of...
Because they suck? Like Asus?
Because of what happened with Asus and the SD card and the RMA process and stuff like that? Do you think
I don't know. I mean, people love to hate Nintendo too, right? But they still will buy everything Nintendo. So I don't think there is an element to that, but there's just as much risk if you buy an Neo or any of the others too.
One thing that I want to just quickly mention, and I think that this is more of a PC gaming mindset that's a problem for PC gamers, is that most people that think of PC gaming think that you're pushing the envelope. You're going to get something that's better than console. And unfortunately, because of where we've been at, the Steam Deck is still very competitive given that it's, 2-3 years old? How old is it?
2.5.
Yeah, so it's really old, but yet it's still competing with the top-end Ally. And if the performance bump isn't appreciable, then there's nothing really to get at. So for them, PC gaming is the pinnacle of gaming, and that's the place where you're going to be pushing numbers. And if they're not even delivering that, what's to be excited about?
Yeah.
So there's a weird juxtaposition between those two mindsets, between hardcore PC gamers and where handheld PC gaming is. And in fact, I'll have a lot of people talking to me like, oh, how do I overclock that? I'm like, overclock it? We're lucky if we even just like hit clocks on the CPU or GPU within our given power budget. Like you're like off the wall somewhere already. You're not even in the right mindset. We're in a different world and we just need better parts. or just wholly reconfigured stuff. And there's stuff that's on the horizon that's big, but it's not here yet. And I think that people have a hard time conceptualizing what that is. And for them, they just really want to see double. So it's like whatever that is, they want to if it's 30 FPS, I want to see 60 FPS. And that's what I want to see. And we're not there.
But I think also some of that is like the identity of PC gaming, but it's not PC gamers, right? Like there's a large vocal minority of people that are like push for the biggest, baddest graphics, whatever. But then you look at what PC gamers, you look at the hardware survey for Steam, and it's all over the place, right? Like it's the 1050s, the 3080s, things like that. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. It's along your point. Like, it's not just from the identity of a PC gamer, right?
Yeah.
That's what the mindset is. Like, you can visualize what that person looks like. But then you look at the people that are just appreciating how good Steam OS is and how far it's progressed, and it's made the Steam Deck better and better every year. And now we have that, video recording feature that's just going in. So everything's like, man, everything's coming up roses for me, and I'm not even paying any money. Everything's coming up through house.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool to see, and I think that we're gonna, from that angle, you have Asus that I've talked to about, and they're really, really interested in trying to bridge the gap and making Windows a better handheld experience. That's something that they're super mindful of, but there are hard gaps that they literally cannot pass. Like, we had conversation. So when I went to Taipei and I went to Asus, we were talking to them. We were like, can you have it so that like when you just like have the device go to sleep and when you wake up, it doesn't give me the Windows login screen? Can it just go straight into it? And they're like, we tried, but Microsoft literally won't allow us to do that. So it's like there's hard stops that they have to face in the Windows ecosystem that they're aware of, but they're trying to smooth the gaps. So there's like interesting things. For what it's worth, Asus they have a really good mind on where they need to go. But I think, unfortunately, Valve is the biggest enemy for all of these other handheld makers.
For sure.
Because not only are they selling something that is probably at cost or something at a little bit of a loss, which these other handheld makers can't do because Valve's going to make money on Steam.
Right.
They're competing against Steam, and they're not really even doing a good enough job to compete against it. So it's a weird thing where we're like almost being flooded, and we're like feel like we're drowning. And yet there are a few shiny examples of what everyone's actually using. But I do think that the sense of having too much is very prevalent, and a lot of people say it. It was like the article on The Verge, right?
Yeah.
There is that sense where all the Chinese boutique makers are kind of getting put into there, and they have the choice and availability, but then it dilutes and kind of muddies the water because people are like, well, what's the best one? What's the one that I have to get?
Right,
And
right.
that's really the key of what we're trying to focus on here.
I think going back to the ET thing to bring it around, right? Like, it comes down to quality. So if it's not INEO always publishing every 3 months, and we have Asus, which for all intents and purposes, aside from their customer service issues, the Ally X is an incredible handheld, right? So if we see more of that and less of just bad handhelds, then we may get to a point of just the interest level is not the same, but we don't get to a point where it crashes, I think, the industry in any way.
So 2 years ago, when Bob was complaining about the retro handhelds, he was complaining about, all the bad things about these are really bad. And now the bad things about these are getting better. So when we see a new piece of hardware come out every single year, like if Asus and Lenovo and all these other ones are treating it like a laptop, which some would say that they are and some would say that they're not, if they're constantly coming out with new ones, I think that's personally, I think that's okay. Because if I decide tomorrow, it's time for me to buy a new handheld, then there's a new one for me to buy, and I don't have to buy.
So you're the problem.
I am the problem. There's a new one for me to buy, and I don't have to buy one that's 3 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the other part, though, and I see this all the time in the comments, anytime a new handheld comes out, I get a lot of comments that say, I just bought the last one, and now it's obsolete. Like, it's not obsolete, right?
Right.
But that's a console way of thinking, right? Yeah. You just bought a Super Nintendo, and then the Nintendo 64 comes out, And so that's the whole mindset I'm talking about, right? It's like at some point, people are just going to get burned out. There's too many. We can't keep up. What are we going to do? big dichotomy there.
There's also people who are afraid to buy something like a Steam Deck because they're like, oh, the Steam Deck 2 is going to be like right around the corner. And it's like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know if that's going to work. Second of all, you're going to have a good at least couple of months, with this thing. And I think you'll be totally fine with it.
Yeah. But for an $800 console, is that 2 months enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if we're just talking Steam Deck, right? And let's say Steam Deck 2 comes out in October of next year, and you buy a Steam Deck OLED today, you will get your money's worth. $400, you will get your money's worth for that year.
Is that how much one is? I thought they were $550 for the OLED, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But 100, whatever the price is, it makes sense because I always like to say that when you make the decision to make that purchase, whatever the purchase may be, at the time that you bought it, you were like, this is worth it. And just because something new came out and these guys made a video about it, doesn't mean that suddenly that thing that you bought was now a pile of garbage, is useless and worthless, and you shouldn't have done it.
It's hard with like PC handhelds because PC handhelds, they're releasing like once a year at least, or it seems like that's what's happening. But again, people are thinking of it like consoles and not like laptops. Like laptops, pretty much immediately obsolete the second you buy it. So this is going to be the same thing. Not obsolete, but like, they're going to be immediately working on the next one because that's just how these laptop manufacturers work. And these laptop manufacturers are making the new handhelds now. And I think the reason why people don't like the Ally X or like they're not so excited about it is just it's not that much of a spec bump.
It's a refresh, yeah.
You need to be like, this is the frame rate you can get on this one so that everybody's like, whoa, that's so much better than the last one. Because right now, it's not. It's got a better battery, and that's basically it.
Right.
The other thing that, along the note of it's a console, the other part that is slightly annoying and has been a conversation forever now is even back to like the GBD Win 2, when that was literally the only PC gaming handheld that existed. That was $625, $650. And the comments that I always saw, because they were thinking of it as a console instead of a laptop, they were like, if I could get a Switch for $300, or I can get a better gaming laptop for $800. And I was like, those are like wildly different things. Like the Switch is a console, and it's great for $300. It's a fantastic console. But a gaming laptop, you're not going to be going onto a bus and just be like, well, time to get out my gaming laptop. Oh, I can play this for 20 minutes. And it's always the same conversation, but it's weird because I never really thought of people looking at these with the frequency that they're coming out through the lens that they are consoles. And I've always because for me, I always just see the specs and I'm just like, oh, another H700. Oh, another Rockchip 35. I just see that. And I'm like, I just increment it, right? That belongs to the same class. And I never really think of it as another, but I could see why people think of that. And I think I can understand why people are like, oh, which one's better? And it's like, they're all kind of pretty much the same thing, just in a different package.
Well, the other part is that none are perfect, right? I've never seen a perfect handheld ever. There's always something missing, something wrong, right? It's a conspiracy or whatever, right? But I think a lot of people compromise and they say, okay, this isn't the perfect one for me. I really wanted a clamshell, but I'll buy this vertical. And then the clamshell comes out. And everyone's mad, and then they also get that one, And so, I don't know how many SPs I've signed today, like RG35XX SPs. And so, yeah, that's a very popular console. What's going to happen when the next one comes with all the fixes that we were hoping for, an analog stick or whatever, There's always something where they're not perfect enough. And so people make a compromise, and then they get mad when the next one comes out. Totally understandable, I think.
If you guys have ever watched the show before, sometimes I like to just throw a question that I thought of in the middle of the show, and these guys are completely unprepared for it. So, Russ, you said that there's always something bad about them. What's your favorite handheld, and what don't you like about it?
I like it.
Okay, so the Odin 2 is my favorite right now. I know he doesn't like it.
Bob has thoughts.
What's wrong with Odin 2?
Yeah.
What didn't I like about it? Now I'm just
Saw your face.
It was expensive.
It was expensive.
It's like
It is
Steam Deck
very
prices.
expensive. Why would you get that? It's cool because it's like a small, powerful
Yeah.
emulation thing, but the
Yeah.
Steam Deck exists,
So
so that can play Elden Ring.
Right. So the thing I don't like about it has to do with that, right? Is that it's Android and we are held captive by the Android platform and then the emulator developers who want to make the emulators for it. And we've seen with Yuzu and Citra over the past, 6 months, those can be yoinked anytime and we can lose it. Or with PS2, the dev just quit, and so we're left with whatever he fixed, and then kept it closed source. So we can't actually update it, and so yeah, I'd say that's the biggest limiting factor is that Android is cool in many ways, but man, we are locked in, and we're at the behest of all those whims of the developers at that point.
Oh, what was the question?
Favorite handheld, and what don't you like about it?
Oh, okay. Jeez. Oh God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Steam Deck's great. Love the Steam Deck. What don't I like about the Steam Deck?
Too big?
It is too big. It is definitely too big. I would love like a Steam Deck Lite because they could do it with. First of all, there's a lot of room in that thing.
Yeah.
There's the board. The main board is incredibly small for how big that thing is.
Right.
Also, I know people love the touchpads. And I made a video about how I came around on the touchpads. Since that video, never once touched the touchpads again. So I could do without the touchpads. But I would prefer something that's as powerful as the Steam Deck, maybe the OLED with a nice 90 hertz screen that is like a fraction of the size, maybe the size of an Odin. And that would give people even less of a reason to buy the Odin too.
So, Bob, you know what's funny is I was one of the biggest proponents for the touchpad. So I was also offended when you said you didn't enjoy touchpads.
I offended a lot of people.
Yeah. But I've since... What's that? Don't touch my touchpad.
I promise you, I don't want to touch your touchpad.
I think I've come around. So the main reason I enjoyed touchpads were for first-person shooters. This was before Steam Deck. I know I'm going to say it again. Before Steam Deck implemented Flickstick. So now I use Flickstick for aiming.
I need to try Flickstick. I'm hearing a lot about Flickstick.
It's good.
I would love to flick my stick.
It's really good. Yeah, you flick your stick. Yeah. But to answer the question, favorite handheld is a Steam Deck. I think if I had to pick a thing that I don't like about it, it would be the power, really. So I love the battery life, so it's not something I wouldn't give up the battery life for the power. But I would like more opportunity to be able to play the newer games, right? So Shadow Verge Tree is a good example. It kind of got performance regression recently with the new patch, or Elden Ring got performance regression with the new patch. So I would like to be able to just play that more confidently on the Steam Deck. It's not, AAA games aren't the main games I play, but I play them often enough that I would like some more power on the deck.
Carrie?
So my favorite handheld is probably definitely the GPD Win Mini 2024 edition. I went to Chicago for work, and I played Animal Well on the airline, and I played 6 hours and beat the first ending of it. Had a blast. And the thing that I don't like about that is GPD got bullied to remove the Oculink port and put in a USB-A port.
This guy was grilling Asus about why they didn't have an Oculink port. He was talking to them for a really long time.
Yeah. Well, so there's newer ports out like MCIO. So there's the Gen 5 PCIe Gen 5 stuff that I want to go to. Minis Forum has a Oculink eGPU solution now that is $90 without a power supply. But I'm glad that we're gravitating towards this because we're getting to an avenue where PC gaming handhelds could literally replace your laptop, your desktop, and everything else. And when we get to the point of Valve releasing a console-only set-top box type of device with the next generation, if they choose to go in that route. SteamOS is advancing in a lot of different ways, but I am a big proponent, and I am super an Uber geek. I am obviously the 0.1% that's doing really silly stuff. I've been using a handheld as my desktop for over a year now. I just have it connected to a 4090. Now, that's a lot of horsepower, so that's understandable inside that realm, but that's not something that a lot of people are rocking, and I understand that. But as we gravitate to open standards that can just go to PCIe out through a cable, everyone can do that. And I think the closer that we get to that, then you're going to have more options where you're like, well, maybe I don't want a full desktop. Maybe I just want my handheld. And I dock it, and I have superpower when I'm docked. And then I can just take it with me. Everything that I have is loaded up on it, and I go and I play games, and it's limited in power to what it has. But you have the best of both worlds in one machine.
What about you, Bill?
So the Steam Deck is my favorite right now, although the ROG Ally-X is really good with that beefy battery because you do get more power without necessarily sacrificing that battery life. The thing that I would change about it is I would really like to see, the thing that I was hoping for when they announced the Steam Deck was that they would have not Oculink, because I didn't know what Oculink was. And I think if you walked, this is a place with, there's a trumpet playing. There's a lot of people here. Hardcore gamers are in this place. And if I asked every single one of them, I'm going to guess that maybe 100 people would know what Oculink is. And that's probably why it went away.
And it's probably because of you.
Yeah, they're all the Fox fans.
I'm just gonna be banging the drum, just like dome-based D-pads, Oculink, dome-based D-pads, Oculink,
Yeah.
and that's it. As long as I just get those things, I'm gonna be totally happy. I actually have a question for all of you guys. If Valve made a clamshell Steam Deck, would that be something that you guys would like?
I think I would. It depends on the form factor. The thing about the Steam Deck that I really like most is that it's so comfortable. Clamshell, I know that you love clamshell more than anything else, and I'm a fan of clamshell because you open the screen and it's at the right angle for your face, and you're not changing the angle of
Yeah.
your wrist to be able to see it
Yeah,
better.
you make the ergonomics of the device better for you rather than you adjusting yourself to have better ergonomics.
Absolutely.
eyeballs.
I don't know that it would make it all that much smaller, though.
No, yeah, because I would agree with you that Valve would go hardcore on ergonomics, so it would be a chunky clamshell. But I still think it would be smaller than the device, the weapon that the Steam Deck currently is.
So I'm not on the side that thinks it should be smaller. I'm perfectly fine with the size.
yeah.
I don't use the trackpads, like I said, anymore, but the size itself I'm very comfortable with. I haven't really had enough hours with the Ally X yet to say where that lands for me. But I just like these chunkier handhelds. That's just what I prefer.
I think if they could make it smaller, then fine. I'll take a clamshell. If it's like the same thing as the Aya Neo Flip, I actually kind of liked the way that felt, except for the thumbsticks. They got to fix that.
Yeah.
But I would be totally fine with the Steam Deck that's like that. That would kind of be my dream. I'm not particularly fond of clamshells, but I'll take it if it means a smaller footprint for the whole overall thing, for sure.
Are you trying to make my Steam Deck obsolete? Is that what you're trying to do here?
There's a new one already. I
No,
gotta throw this away.
so for me, I have seen so many bad clamshells versus the good ones that it'd be an uphill battle. But if anybody could do it, it would probably be Valve. And so I'd be up for it. I'd be interested in trying it out at least.
That's 4 yeses.
I'm a maybe.
Was I the...
Yes, you were a yes.
Okay. Just make them all yeses.
So I never answered what the thing that I don't like about the Steam Deck was, because I kind of meandered as I tend to do. I really would have, I was hoping that it had eGPU support. I didn't know what Oculink was, but I was like, I just want to plug a wire in, buy a thing at my house, and then just have one PC instead of having this one to play my light games on and then something more heavy to play the heavier games on.
Can I change my answer? I want eGPU support, and that's a completely original answer. I just came up with it.
You did. I was here. You guys all saw it. I didn't even say anything. He just jumped in there.
Yeah. Good answer.
All right. So at this point, we only have about 10 minutes left before we got to get out of here. If anybody has questions, there's a microphone over there that you guys can go up to, and you can ask questions for anybody on the panel. And I'm sure it'll probably be Russ.
No.
If anybody wants any tech support, Russ is here to help you.
We'll get through whoever we can. All right, come on up. What's your name? Oh, is the microphone on?
There we go.
Oh, it's on.
It's on.
Don't hit it.
Sorry. My name is Christian. I just have a question for Russ. I mean, I watch all of you guys, but we definitely appreciate the detail of the guides, even the written guides. Like it's not something that you see that often. On average, how long does it take you to make a video?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the question was, how long does it take to make a video? So it depends on if it's a guide or a review or impressions, but average for me is between 20 and 40 hours per video, and that's for 20 to 40 minutes for the video. So you can imagine it's compounded by how complex it can be. You know, a guide will take me at least 40 hours, if not more. Plus I have to write the guide, which takes a long time. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean, to put it into context, you know, at best I can do 2 videos or 3 a week, and I work mostly 16-hour days most of the time. And so
Wow.
it's crazy. I'm very thankful for my military background because it forces me to just kind of get in work mode really easily. And so, yeah, it's a lot of work, 20 to 40 hours, I would say. And so I get so many requests. Please make a guide for this. Please make a video for this or whatever. And I just see the amount of hours that each one of those requires. And so if I don't ever get to that video, it's not because I don't want to. It's just not enough hours in the day. So
Yeah.
Is that a question for everybody?
I
It takes me like 20 hours, I would say, maybe more if it's a really complex writing process. But he's usually a lot more technical. Me, it takes me a while to shoot the B-roll and stuff and edit it and whatever. So yeah, 20, 25, 30 hours maybe. A lot.
I usually don't take nearly as long as these guys because I do news stuff. So I'm usually just reacting to whatever happened, and it's a lot of talking head stuff. And then I throw some B-roll on top. So I would say for a news video, it would probably take me maybe 5 hours or so, something like that. Rich?
For reviews, at least 20 hours, I would say, for like those technical reviews and news videos. 5 hours on the low side. I know you do very quick writing, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, like the writing, I don't know, it just takes my brain some time to really get into the mode. So I think it usually ends up taking like 8 hours for a news video.
Kerry?
It takes between if I go in depth, it's like 40 to 80 hours. It's a lot of stuff. Fortunately, there's a lot of stuff that is scripted by me, so I have a lot of things that are automatically benchmarking per watt, and I just kind of let my script run, and it'll take a few hours to finish it all up. But then kind of collating that data and going through it, and then doing the video, it's 40 to 8 hours.
And
Thank you.
No, I just want to say thank you so much, guys, for
Thank you.
your hard
oh, thank you.
Thanks for
I
watching.
will note too, Carrie has the gift of gab. So he has the ability to hit record a video, and then turn it off. And none of us can do
nothing
that. Only him.
scripted. Yeah, no scripts. I just go.
It's great stuff.
Hi, what's your question? What's your name?
My name is Clinton, and also I'm a big fan of you, Wolfden, aka Bob. And also, to all you people out there, what's it like having Dolby Vision into one of these amazing monitors to this day?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, what's it like having Dolby Vision in every monitor to this very decade?
Dolby Vision in every monitor? Is that
Yeah.
Say that again.
I really am
Dolby
curious.
Vision in every monitor.
What is
I don't know what Dolby Vision is. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're talking about HDR and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. So he's just talking about the reference of Dolby Vision to be included in. It's in every monitor now. I didn't actually know that. I'm aware of Dolby Vision. I just didn't know it was in every monitor.
Yeah, but it's in the HP Omen, the Alienware, and Rod Swift.
Nice.
I only just started messing with HDR video, like shooting HDR, and
Yeah,
it's
same.
been really hard. It really messes up my whole workflow, but it is really cool when you're when I'm on my MacBook and I look at a YouTube video and the whole screen dims and then the video gets really bright. I was like, I want to do that. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, and it is a huge pain in the ass, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, I would say that just generally speaking is kind of like the next step as HD was from the SD era. And this is something you always saw it and you just never really would be able to convey in thoughts when you'd see color banding happening and stuff. So when you'd see that. So we're getting to the point, but then also mastering in HDR and doing Dolby Vision is a tough process, and they're still creating standards to actually nail that. And Valve actually did a lot with the Steam Deck OLED to try to simplify that process for game devs and stuff. So we're getting there, and it's a nice first step, but I think we're still got a bit to go yet.
They just told us that we only got 5 minutes left. So thank you so much for your question,
Yeah.
but we'll try and get through these lightning round style.
Got it. And by the way, Wolfden, you hungry?
You hungry?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lightning round question. Go. What's your question?
Hey everybody, so I'm curious, with the way that PC gaming handhelds are, we've seen Disney using them to control BB-8s in the parks, or other people use them to control drones. Do you think that that's going to grow, the utility of PC gaming handhelds for other uses?
Oh, let me answer
Can you
this.
repeat the question?
So he's saying using PC gaming handhelds as a means to remote control things. What's interesting is when the GPT Win 2 came out in 2017, there was a dude that was using it for drones.
Oh.
And he was like, you should tell GPT to just market this to drone makers because that's what I use it for. And I was like, cool, I didn't even know that was possible. But yeah, when you're seeing that type of stuff, so yeah, I think that there is an avenue. And when you see the drones and the Imagineers using it, I think that people are now starting to conceptualize what that's actually like. And I think you're going to actually start seeing a lot more cool stuff in that avenue. Yeah, that's actually a good question.
Yeah, and handheld PCs just have an incredible utility, versatility. So yeah,
In
that's
terms
really,
of like I'm just going to develop something. I have all these methods and inputs to like control things. It's it's a really good, it's really cool.
I think I saw somebody on Twitter showed me like I think the lighting guy from Metallica or something uses a Steam Deck. So
They use Steam Decks to control the robots. I'm sorry, Star Wars people are going to kill me. The droids at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't hear the question.
I was like totally geeking out. I was like, yes,
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. Next up.
Any reason why we haven't seen SteamOS on any other handhelds?
Okay. So this is a. I don't know how much I can talk about this, but this has been a process that has been developing a lot as time has been going on. I don't know why we haven't seen it like generally, but they continue to just keep on adding more and more things. If you take a look at SteamOS 3.5 before they went to the 3.6, there was actually a point where SteamOS, they added a way that the SD card, when the SD card first was implemented on the Steam Deck, it was a hand-rolled entire process. It worked on nothing else. They eventually pivoted over so that the SD card can work on any hardware, but when they did that, they broke a lot of things like EmuDeck and other things. So they had to peel that back and wait until they can go into it. SteamOS 3.6 has the standardized method for that. So what you're seeing is that Valve has to catch up and make sure that SteamOS can actually run on all hardware, and that takes that's a big process, and they're so focused on what they're doing. And you look at HDR like on OLED and stuff, and they keep on getting sidetracked. So I would wager that it's a tall task, a tall order that they have to accomplish, but they are working on it. And if you look through the matrix, you can actually see them working towards that.
Awesome,
That's a good
thank
answer. I think they shouldn't have announced it so quickly that they wanted to do it. Obviously, they want to do it, but they have a lot of competing priorities, and they're falling behind on a few of them right now.
Thank you for the question.
Cool, awesome, thanks.
Yes.
Would you guys like to see a Nintendo
Yeah, scream into that mic.
Would you guys like to see a Nintendo DS with today's hardware?
A Nintendo 3DS with today's hardware.
Yeah.
I would.
Sorry, I still didn't hear it.
A Nintendo 3DS with modern hardware.
Yes.
So they just have a newer 3DS.
I just want Nintendo to make a little less powerful little guy.
A little guy.
It doesn't need to be I don't need 3D at all, but just something that's not necessarily as powerful as the Switch 2. Something that could play, little indie games.
You already have that.
Virtual
What do I
Boy
have?
2.
You have all of the other things. All of them.
The emulation things?
Yeah, there's a billion of them.
I want an official Nintendo one so that I don't get arrested.
No, you make a good point, though. Is the more powerful the Switch is going to get, Switch 2 or whatever, we now have a gap where we need a handheld, right? Something small, powerful, throw in your pocket, take around like we did in the 90s. So I think that there may be an opportunity for Nintendo to make a handheld beyond the Switch 2. I think
There's no reason for me to have only be able to play like Celeste on a big, like thing, or like Mario Wonder. I don't need all the power of a Switch 2. I can just play that on a little Game Boy.
Have you heard of the Odin 2? You can play Mario.
Shut
Wonder.
up.
Thank you so much for the question. Yes.
Hello, my name is Isaiah. Thank you for your service, Russ. I was also a Marine, so awesome seeing, also other service members, getting really big. My question, for the most part, Bob just answered my question, but if you guys were able to pick a company and have them make a handheld, like what, for example, I would have a new Game Boy Advance, but with like a 5-inch screen and new, indie games kind of deal. What would your choice be?
So we can pick any company to make a handheld?
Any company, and they can make, whether it be like a hard, modern PC or just like a somewhat retro, but can play new indie games kind of deal.
So I would pick Sony. I'd love for them to make like another PS Vita. That would be amazing.
Love that.
I think Microsoft would be good just to make a PC handheld, so they can somebody can compete with Steam.
Sega.
Wow.
I would love to see Sega come back. I love the Sega Nomad. The Sega Game Gear was amazing. And what are they doing anyway? They're just sitting there? Come on.
Yeah, I got mine, right? Like Valve made the handheld I wanted pretty much. Like it has a few things that I would improve, but they made the thing I wanted, so I got my wish.
I think the one thing that I continue to ask for is a gaming phone. So if Sony could make like a PlayStation phone, I would like that. I have my phone with me all the time, but I don't necessarily have a handheld on me at every moment. So if I could just have a PlayStation phone, that would be pretty sweet. I don't care who makes it. I just want someone to make a gaming phone, like a real gaming phone, not a rectangle.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we got one more question.
Hello, my name is Darren.
Hello.
Big fan of you, Russ, at Retro Game Corps. Based on one of your recommendations, one of the most recent videos, I wouldn't say recent videos, I got the RG28XX. Love the thing. Not the best build, but it's got probably the best emulation based on the size. And one more question. Have you accidentally swallowed your RG Nano yet?
So if you guys haven't seen the RG Nano, it's tiny, right? And so the way that I like to talk about it is that I call it inconsequentially small. Like it's so small you throw it in your pocket and you forget that it's there. And that's an awesome place for a handheld to be, except for when you try to play it, because it's so small, it's like uncomfortable. And so, yeah, RG Nano's crazy. I have not put it in my mouth. Was it you that put it in your mouth?
Thumbnail.
That was the thumbnail of the video, was me doing that. I also did that with the Sega Game Gear.
Oh, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So I have a couple videos where it's just me trying to eat the thing.
That was a very gutsy move to have that camera. That
Not a
close
lot
to
of
your face.
Photoshops. I was welcoming the Photoshops.
I'll get right on it, Bob.
So thank you all for coming to our show. We really appreciate it, and you guys are fantastic. Those were great questions, and let's hear it for Retro Game Corps. Bob Wolf. Fan the Deck. And the Fox. Thank you for coming to the NerdNest podcast, and I hope you guys all stay rad, everybody.
Thanks.